Alright guys, final video. If you stopped here yesterday, you'll notice that we talked about, the studio being torn down as of today. Yep. So today's it. Last video here that you'll see ever. Unless of course you go back and watch some of the old videos, which you should. Go ahead, do that. But today we are actually looking at a new variable ND filter, and this is one by Sandmarc. Now there are a lot of people, myself included actually, that know Sandmarc a little bit because of their like smartphone lenses, so their anamorphics and their ND filters and all that kind of stuff for smartphones. So you can see here on their website, right? Here's Sandmarc. So all kinds of cool gear, iPhone lenses, iPhone filters, lights, GoPro gear, video conferencing. But Sandmarc actually reached out to me and said, hey, which would you like to try? And I'm like, well, honestly, as much as I like to shoot with my iPhone and GoPro on occasion, I of course primarily shoot with bigger cameras. So I was very interested to see one of their variable ND filters, because I've tried many in the past, and some of them are good, some of them not so much. So we wanted to see what theirs was like. So we ended up getting, and this is it right here, right? It's $159 US. So it's not an inexpensive one. It's not like you're going to go on Amazon and get, put it up against the $30 ND filter. And realize, and this is from previous experience, when you buy, at least I find the inexpensive ones, for one, their glass isn't usually super great. Two, sometimes with variable ND filters, depending, especially with wide lenses, you can get these, it's like an X that shows up inside your image, and nobody wants that. And that's usually what happens with a lot of the more inexpensive ones. So, like I said, we got the 82mm. You can see here they have a bunch of sizes, 82, 77, 67, 58, etc., etc. And the reason we did that is that I'm a big fan, because especially for those of us that are on a budget, as much as I'd like to be able to just get one of these for every diameter, I have a bunch of different lenses that I use, like a lot of you do, or lenses that you may want to end up buying down the road, and you're like, I don't know what their diameter is going to be. So I went with their biggest. Why? Because you can go out, like what I did, and just buy step-up rings. So as long as this is big, you can take the smaller lens diameter that you have, just add some step-up rings to it, and then mount this to it. Is that gonna work? Yeah, for sure. So we're gonna end up actually taking out two cameras today. We're taking out my Canon R6 and we're taking out my Canon R, and we're running two actual different size lenses. So we're actually shooting the 24-105, just the STM, so it's got a smaller diameter. And we're going to be shooting the EF 16-35, which has got a bit of a bigger one. So the nice thing is, again, we can use one filter, move them between the two cameras just by adding some step-up rings to this, right? So step-up rings, ND filter. All right, so that's what we're doing today, and we are going to go shooting, and we'll be back and let you know what we think after we take a look at the photos and video. Yeah, we want to shoot some video. All right, guys, stay tuned. All right, guys, so I'm outside, and we've got the Sandmarc ND filter attached to the camera, but I actually use a little flip up for the filter, so you can see when I bring it down here. Ready? Really dark, right? Really dark. So what we're gonna do today, because right now we're shooting at 150 and at f4, and I'm standing in the shadow, so it's actually pretty good. But when we go out to the sun, you'll see here, right out in the sun here, all right, it really starts to get blown out a little bit. So this may be when a filter may be a little nicer to play around with, right? Just kind of get it where you need it to be. All right, so we're gonna go out, take some mostly video today, I think, with this. And now this is a 3 to 6 stops, so that could be good. So we'll go out and take some photo and video with this. All right, let's go. Alright, so far the lens is doing really good. I have shot almost all the video, in 1/50th 24 frames at f4, and this thing has been great for a bright sunny day like today. So I think what we'll do is shoot a little bit more, because it's kind of cooking hot, and we will head home and take a look at the footage. Alright. Alright guys, so the shooting with this lovely polarizer is done. So we're going to go home now and actually take a look at some of the photos and the videos and things like that. Again, we shot with two different cameras, so I did switch it around every once in a while. But I have to say, looking through the viewfinder, I really like how it looks with the ND filter. You just get it feels like a more contrasty feel. So we're going to go take a look and stay tuned. Alright guys, so we're back in the house, and you may hear some humming, and that's just the drives beside here. Again, the studio is not what it normally is, so please, I apologize, but I wanted to get this video done. So, I really like this filter. It's like I said, it's a 3 to 6 stop, so if you're in a need to have just a little bit of ND, then you know you might want something that does a little less stops, but this is a really nice kind of happy medium, right? So just so you guys can see my setup, so here it is here. This is my R6 that I was shooting on. This is the 16 to 35, and I had it on, just so you guys can see, I had it, here it is there, I had it on a flip up, okay? So because, remember how I said I use step up rings, so basically there's this mounts on the lens, and then this can pop down when I need it, and the lens is there. Now there's a step up ring between these two right here to take it from a 77 to an 82. So just kind of be aware on a 16, now this is probably not going to be the case if you have like a 24 or anything like that. When you're on a 16, you can see the step up ring when you're at full 16, so you kind of have to come in a little bit, so you probably come into like an 18 or something like that, so you just have to give it a little, just to zoom it in a tad bit. Now is that a big deal? It's not for me, but if you need that full 16, just realize, make sure you get a filter that is proper, because if not, you're gonna see a bit of that that little bit of vignetting happening right there, right? But the color that came out of this, the contrast that was out of it, really, this is a really nice piece of glass. So probably one of the nicest ones that I personally use, and not to say that I've used a lot in my day, but I've definitely used some inexpensive ones, and this one is really nice. So if you're looking for a variable ND filter, this is fantastic. Now again, it's not inexpensive, right? You're looking at about $160 US to get this, but if you need some quality, then this is probably a really good option. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed the little video that we took. Before I finish, that's probably the biggest reason for wanting this, because I do get a lot of people that are like, why would you need an ND filter to start with? You can just set your camera. Now it's really for specifics, right? That's what it's for. So if you're a photographer most of us want speed, so we don't necessarily want our photos to be darker, so you probably wouldn't shoot very often with an ND unless you're trying to do things like time-lapse photography or long exposure photography, so that you can get it to be darker so that you can expose longer. That's a big one for photography. But for me, the most important one is again for video, and it's because you want to shoot in a way that you get motion blur. So whatever your frame rate is that you're shooting, and I was shooting in 24p, you want to double it, or as close to double as possible. So 24 would be 48, but there is no 48 on this camera, so 50, so I'm as close as possible. And you get a nice motion blur. So a lot of times what you'll see with cameras that are shooting, let's say you're shooting in 24 frame, but you just set it in auto and let the camera kind of figure it out, that camera will expose and bring like that shutter speed up, like to 250 or 400 or like 1,000. So in that case, what happens is you get these really weird judders across the screen when things are moving, because the images with movement are so sharp that it's like here, here, here. Whereas if it's blurred between them, it just feels smoother across. And that's really to replicate what the human eye sees, right? So you want to kind of lock those, and you can't do that in bright sunlight, which I was definitely in bright sunlight on a day like today, without an ND filter. And you can get ND filters that are specific stops, which is great, but lighting changes all the time, and because of that you want a variable one, which means you can see it on the lens here, right? You can see how, hopefully you can see that, maybe. Oh, I got a big reflection. There you go, you see it there, right? See how dark it gets compared to how light it gets, even in the reflection there? Right, so it's like sunglasses that are putting or allowing less light in or more light in. So, and then I have this little adapter. Bloop. It's just a U-rig. It's fantastic. So you can pop it up when you don't need it. Like you get in the shadows, for instance, shoot normally, and you're like, yep, need it again. Boom. Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right, guys, I'm gonna leave it there. That's it. And this is the very, very last video shot here in Ottawa. Yeah, all the videos now be in our new home, or our new temporary home in Nova Scotia. All right, guys, that's it. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and hit the bell. Hit the bell, and we'll see you fine folks in the next video in our new home. Super exciting. All right, guys, I'm out. Later.